Call the honourable member for Wakefield.
Well, thank you, Deputy Speaker. This is a government that was elected on a wave of nostalgia, wishful thinking and a pack of lies. And there can be no greater evidence of this than this budget. Because what we have here is a budget of betrayal of those commitments given in the election campaign and the period running up to it. It is fundamentally a betrayal of the old. Because in an interview on the 6th of September 2013, Tony Abbott said, no changes to pensions. No changes to pensions. And what do we have in this budget? Well, new indexation arrangements for pensions, basically getting rid of the average male weekly earnings, getting rid of the pensioner living cost index and replacing it with the inflation rate. And it's doing the same thing for disability, for carers, for parenting payment. This is hacking into pensioners after a solemn commitment was given. It is a betrayal of pensioners. And then it's also, if that wasn't enough, a betrayal of taxpayers everywhere. Because Tony Abbott, on the 20th of November 2012, said, we're about reducing taxes, not increasing taxes. We're about getting rid of taxes, not imposing new taxes. Again, a betrayal of the commitment he made at that time. And it's a betrayal of the young, because we know Christopher Pyne said that there'd be no university fees, no plans to increase university fees. And yet now they face the prospect of $100,000 degrees. They face the prospect of having to borrow to get a trade. They face the prospect of having no income support for 6 months, under the age of 30. That will make some people in my electorate couch surf. It'll make them homeless. That's the reality of that. That's the reality of it. It is a brutal reality. It is a betrayal of the young. It is a betrayal, not welcoming with the opportunity, but betrayal. It's a betrayal of families, and particularly single-income families who are, let's face it, the support base of the coalition. And yet there's an attack on them, the changes to family tax benefit B, reducing it. Once your child hits 6, you're off it. It's a betrayal of those families who now have to pay $7 to see the doctor. It's a betrayal of motorists who are now going to have to pay every time they go to the Bowser. And motorists in my electorate, in places like Clare and Kapunda, my hometown, up the track, are going to have to pay a petrol tax to pay for infrastructure in Sydney, in the cities. That's who's going to have to pay for it. I mean, if I was a rural MP from the coalition side, I would be very worried about going home next week, very worried. But it's also a betrayal of the states, and we saw that with the New South Wales Premier today and the Queensland Premier. It's a betrayal of every local government in the country, because their financial assistance grants have been frozen, another great thing for country roads. It's a betrayal of rural Australia. They're the ones who are going to suffer hardest under this budget, hardest. And it's a betrayal of everybody who needs a school or a hospital or expects a decent school and hospital in the future. Because $80 billion is coming out over the next 10 years. $80 billion is coming out of schools and hospitals. It's a betrayal of GPs, those GPs who do want to bulk bill, those GPs who do want to provide a good service, are now going to be turned into tax collectors so that the Treasurer can build his research fund. It's a betrayal of the Australian people, and it's a betrayal of straight talk, of the idea that your word is your bond. And there is no person more than the Prime Minister, who did more to lift expectations in this regard. Because on August 22, 2011, he said, nothing could be more calculated to bring our democracy into disrepute and alienate the citizenry of Australia from their government than if governments were to establish by precedent that they could say one thing before an election and do the other afterwards. That's his words, not mine. And yet what we have here is a budget that could only be defended by the cynical, by the sanctimonious, by the deluded. It's a budget only Judas Iscariot could be proud of. That is the truth of it. It is a budget of betrayal of all those decent people who went out there and believed the Prime Minister and believed the Treasurer and believed the Education Minister and the commitments they gave. And all of those people feel betrayed. All of them feel betrayed. And if this government thinks they can get away with that betrayal, with this spin and these excuses, then they've got another thing coming.
Order. The honourable member's time is expired.